in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Yeah, so helpful of the FBI to just fall in line like those 51 intelligence experts said that the laptop was fake. FBI releases 2024 quarterly crime report and use of force data. And they give death is down. Death. I've never heard of it like death. Death is down 31.7%. Serious bodily injury is down 55%. Discharge, whatever that is that firing of a weapon by whom? I don't know. What about robbery? What about theft? What about burglary? What about shoplifting, huh? Hey, and what about cops shot in the line of duty? I see that's left out. So let's see. We are at, let me just, and it's a very somber number, 118 killed so far this year, and we're not even halfway into it. So we're on track right now for well over 200. That is a number that was not exceeded in Donald Trump's term. Actually, it had not been exceeded up until, you got to go way back to like 2001, a year where more than 200 cops were killed. 2020, yeah, over 400 cops were shot. Well, why is that? Is it because of the Trump policies? Or is it because everybody pretended Black Lives Matter was some sort of holistic group and we were going to allow looting and pillaging to take place, right? Okay, that's it. 2021, more than 600 law enforcement officers were shot and killed. Now that is all on Joe Biden and the Democrats. They created this horrible lie that the police are a leftover from the slave patrol, that the police are inherently racist, all that stuff. And it created a toxic stew, and the police are left holding the bag. And more, they call it the Ferguson effect. That's 10 years ago now. But, why should cops be aggressive and proactive anymore when they face incarceration themselves if they make a mistake? The lack of qualified immunity, been around for a long time. Basically, if a cop makes a mistake and he's performing his job, decently, you can't hold him liable. It goes without saying. You need to give these guys some latitude. You need to give them discretion, and you need to cut them some slack, even when they make a mistake. And now we have none of that. Hey, the other thing that I want to talk about real quick, here in New York City, we have this thing called the schools chancellor. It's like in other jurisdictions and other areas, you may have the school superintendent. Well, we have the school superintendent reports to somebody called the schools chancellor. And this maniac's name is David Banks. And I happen to know David Banks. I met him about 10, 12 years ago. And back then, he definitely wasn't crazy. Back then, he knew about the real danger that black boys faced. Lack of parenting, lack of fathers, drug use. These are real things. Now we're going to all pretend that they're phantoms and leftovers of white supremacy, and that's really what's keeping people of color down. So what he came out with this over the past couple of days, they did it. They finally did it. They basically kicked a member of the PTA. She was duly elected. All right. Her name is Maud Marin. She was elected to the PTA. They actually call it the Parents' Council. And they kicked her off. And how did they do that? Because people voted for her. I mean, it wasn't exactly the presidential election, but it was still an election. You know why? They came up with a justification. Because she engaged in hate speech. Ooh, hate speech. Wow, that sounds terrible. Nobody should engage in hate speech, right? Well, who the hell is to determine what's hate speech and what's not? How about just speech? You can't yell fire in a crowded theater, but other than that, I think you can kind of say whatever the hell you want, right? And you can't undo the voters. Well, what she said in a private text message to somebody who I guess turned her in, she said, there's no such thing as trans kids. There's no such thing as trans kids. I buy that. Hey, there's no such thing as trans kids. They're too young to make that decision. By the way, nobody, quite frankly, should be making that decision other than maybe 4 or 5 adults in the entire country. And only then, after years of psychotherapy and all that stuff, to make sure it really is the right thing to do. And it probably isn't. Children. There's no such thing as trans kids. And that gets you removed from the school board. That gets you removed from the PTA. How about that one? Maud Marin. She's a hero. And she was just, and they can only do this, by the way. They can only do it with media cover, right? I mean, where the freaking hell are they? This is basic, right? You don't throw people out of office because you don't agree with them, especially when it's stuff they said in private. But this is a new world order, and they want everybody falling in line. And when you get the cues from Hollywood, and by the way, has George Clooney ever been in the movie? And what about Julia Roberts? I mean, now these people are like famous for being George Clooney and Julia Roberts, right? Nobody knows how they became famous. I mean, what was that bad movie that made her a superstar? Pretty Woman. Hey, thanks for that, Julia. Hey, you know where the Pretty Woman is a favorite movie? Russia. Yeah, it inspired a lot of girls to become prostitutes, apparently. It did. It's one of the hottest movies ever come to Russia. And unfortunately, a lot of Russian women really, sorry, but, we've seen it. There are a lot of great Russian people out there, work hard, but there are, they kind of, there are alternate ways of deriving income. And what did George Clooney do? I guess he was in ER. Has he ever been in a movie where he wasn't playing George Clooney, right? Is he all that too? Viviana, you're a person of common sense. What the hell is it with, George, how is he even famous? And I guess they need him. They need that star power with Joe Biden. They need to get a lot of people in the room to prop him up. Donald Trump can get arrested and raise more money than these guys. Do you remember why George Clooney's famous?
I know that he has star power, but I don't know exactly why.
Yeah.
But he does.
No, we forgot.
Clooney's name, they go, oh, Clooney says so.
All right, you're echoing like crazy. So do me a favor. What do you want to say today?
Okay, what I want to say is that there is...
Oh, man, I got to put you on hold, Viviana, because it sounds like you're hanging out with Charlie Brown's parents. Remember that? Isaac, hello.
Hi, how are you?
What's up?
I wanted to thank you for all the work you do, and you're always onto something. I was wondering if I don't know if you spoke about this yet, about Todd Blanche being a little phony.
Why would he be phony?
Because I read up, and he worked for Alvin Bragg at a point, and seems to be that the Democrats planted him in there.
I don't think he worked with them. He may have worked with him at the U.S. Attorney's Office. And that was a time when, look, there are it used to be a very prestigious place to go. All right. The U.S. Attorney's Office. People from both sides, if you will, go there. So that's not a reason to not like Todd Blanche. Okay. All right.
Okay. I just want,
okay. Like Rudy Giuliani was the U.S. Attorney, you get it? He ran that place. So there are people who come out on opposite. That's not the reason. Now, one reason, though, however, to be a little bit frustrated with some of these lawyers is that they are not. I feel like they should have been a bit more impassioned when going up against the judge. A lot of these lawyers are very conservative on a personal level. They're very, very conservative. They became lawyers so that they could always have a way to make money. They're a little bit risk averse. So they're not really going to take on the judge. At one point, I think they should have been they should have been going a little bit nuts in that. And they could have, not for Trump's sake, but for the jury's sake. And I went through the trial. I don't think they ever said, hey, does any of this stuff sound complex and rather unimportant to you? That's because it is. It's unimportant and complex. Why are we here? Because they want to stop that man from being president. I don't know if they ever clearly said it like that. Anyway, so Isaac, that's not why he's a bad guy. All right, he's not a bad guy. All right.
Too sad after they convicted Trump. So I don't know.
He what?
He didn't look frustrated. He went on all television and all after they convicted Trump. He didn't look surprised at all, and he didn't show any sympathy.
Look, I mean, the day before Trump got convicted, what did Trump say? Trump said, Mother Teresa would be convicted after what the judge told that jury. So they knew it was coming. He's not an emotional guy. What can I tell you? I mean, that's a neither here nor there. I would have been a bit more irate. That's not everybody's style. Hey, don't forget, when it comes to lawyers, and I think Blanche is pretty good. Donald Trump does not have his pick. All right. They have made Donald Trump so toxic that the big law firms, the big blue chip law firms, right, where they got all the good heavyweights, they won't do business with him. Not because they don't like him or, some of their partners aren't MAGA, but they're afraid of rocking the boat. They're afraid of losing business. They're afraid of that stuff. And then, the other thing that happens is Rupert Murdoch starts doing business with every big law firm in the country. This happened to me, by the way. This happened to me. I had a guy representing me, and he was doing fine work, and then all of a sudden he came to me and he said, uh-oh, Greg, I have a conflict of interest. I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, this, that, and the other thing. And it was this big multinational corporation, does like a little bit of work with them, and therefore it was a conflict of interest. And I still resent the hell out of that one. Thank you, Isaac. Yeah, that's how these people play. Dirty. Very, very dirty. And, hey, big shout out to Maria Bartiromo. Man, she shows the fire and emotion that more members of Congress should. I have had it with these members of Congress, too. I think they're all about their stupid social media. They're all about getting on TV. But they're not about getting stuff done. Now, I understand you can only do so much when you're in the minority, right? Because, we're in the majority. What am I talking about? Well, you can only do so much when you have the House and you don't have the Senate. But it drives me crazy. And Maria Bartiromo's frustration comes through. And this guy's like, I understand what you're saying and I agree. But cut 21, Maria Bartiromo.
It is Nancy Pelosi admitting that she's responsible for the lack of security on January 6th, saying that she did not call in the National Guard. I take responsibility. She's trying to dismiss this explosive new video that's out. But what you were there, right? What happened and how come there was no National Guard on January 6th? And how come all those people are still in jail who were in Washington on January 6th?
Well, those are great questions. Why wasn't the National Guard? Why weren't they called in? Why didn't she take responsibility then? I would submit to you that it's my feelings that she wanted chaos. She wanted all this to happen. She didn't want to prevent this at all. And you're absolutely right. Look, I have condemned this since day one. I was there. I was one of the last people to leave the floor. And I was forced to leave. I didn't want to leave, but I did leave. And I will tell you, those people, what they did was wrong, and they should be arrested. They should be prosecuted. They should be given due diligence. They should be given their rights.
Hey, shut up for a second. Number one, it's due process. All right, due diligence. And this guy, he can't do a damn thing. They don't have any juice. Congressman, nobody. The only one I liked here was Maria, voicing the frustration that, quite frankly, every American should have about how horrifically these January 6 hostages have been treated. Be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Long Island is more exciting than ever at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel. Get ready to zoom into some serious cash with Zoom Ball every Wednesday in June. Win up to $500,000. 1 point equals 1 entry. 2 lucky winners will be drawn at the top of every hour from 1 to 5 p.m. to play Zoom Ball. Discover the excitement at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel.
If gambling is a problem for you or someone, please call the 24-hour toll-free helpline at 877-8-OPEN or text NY.
Hey, it's Joe Piscopo. When you're looking for concrete materials for your next construction project, call Diamondback Ready Mix on Staten Island. This family-owned and operated business is the go-to supplier for concrete materials in New York, New Jersey, and the surrounding tri-state areas. My friends and experts from Diamondback Ready Mix are experts and fully licensed and insured in New York and in New Jersey to deliver ready-mix concrete to your job site. Give them a call today for more information at 718-650-5649, 718-650-5649.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
So, this is gonna really discourage us, right? They don't know who they're dealing with. It is the anti-Donald Trump ad. Guess what? Oh, they're jumping up and down excited that they have a convicted felon on their hands. Oh, he's a convicted felon. We'll never vote for a convicted felon. Donald Trump should use that so-called conviction, although he hasn't technically been convicted yet. That doesn't happen until sentencing, and that may never happen. There is a real possibility, folks, that this verdict will not be entered into the record because of potential juror misconduct. I know no one's talking about it. I seem to be the only one who cares about it. I don't care, but I'm just going off of what the judge said. The judge issued a letter to the prosecution and the defense listing that there was potential juror misconduct. Some guy said his cousin told him that there was a verdict and it was guilty a day and a half before the verdict was actually rendered, right? That's a mistrial. Now, the fake news has not acknowledged this. And to the extent they have, and by what extent is that, some of their on-air people saying online, not on air, that this has been debunked. It's been debunked. What else has been debunked, huh? Lots of things have been debunked. Debunked that are actually real. That's baseless. Well, they say it's been debunked, but it hasn't been debunked. And there's a real chance that this thing all goes up in smoke. So I guess I'll have to delete this commercial. Let me hear it.
In the courtroom, we see Donald Trump for who he is. He's been convicted of 34 felonies, found liable for sexual assault, and he committed financial fraud. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's been working, lowering healthcare costs and making big corporations pay their fair share. This election is between a convicted criminal who's only out for himself and a president who's fighting for your family.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Oh, wow. Wow. He's fighting for my family. I had no idea. Especially if my family has trans kids. Joe Biden wants me to know the entire LGBTQ community from Joe Biden, especially transgender children. This is from an official White House statement. Please know that your president and my administration have your back. We see you for who you are, made in the image of God and deserving of dignity, respect, and support. I want everybody to be treated with those things. But, Joe, as long as we're bringing up God, it doesn't say that in the Bible. All right. Man and woman is mentioned in the Bible. Trans is not mentioned in the woman. Image of God. No, that's your perverse idea of what's happening here. And oh, by the way, how is it, again, that you got a free pass with the fake news and you violated the Pope's space? Putting your forehead on his forehead. By the way, the Pope, he's on my list as well. What's he doing hanging out with Jimmy Fallon and Chris Rock and the rest? Did you see that? He had a bunch of liberal, not that Chris Rock is okay, but he runs with that pack. Jimmy Fallon, Conan O'Brien, a bunch of Trump haters, and he had an audience with them. He has audiences with interesting groups. Remember when he brought the transgenders up on the stage? I don't know. Everything's backwards. Nothing makes sense. The only thing that makes sense is God, quite frankly. And Joe, do me a favor. Don't misrepresent him. Don't misquote him. And it's funny. All these people in positions of influence and nobody ever talks about it. They never talk about the peace. They never talk about the truth. They never talk about the tranquility. They never talk about a life that you can have free of anxiety if you get closer to God. And the best way to do that is through the Holy Bible, in my opinion. For me, it's not opinion, it's fact. But I gotta, people, a lot of people don't agree with me, and that's whatever. They don't agree with me because they never really thought about it, right? Or they don't agree with me because they got something going on that they enjoy so much, that they think they enjoy so much, they don't want anybody screwing around with it. Me, you, God, Jesus, please stay out of it so I can have my fun. Well, what he's got in store for you is a hell of a lot more fun, interesting, and profitable than whatever it is you're into.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
He couldn't breathe. I said, "Are you okay in that beautiful suit?" His suit was getting very damp. I said, "Are you okay?" He goes, oh, and by the way, I have to tell you, I had a great word that I was going to use, but it's a curse word. And I was told by a great evangelical preacher just this week, "Sir, you tell the greatest stories, you're the greatest everything, but sir, please don't use foul language." And I said, sometimes you need foul language to tell a great story.
It's true. It's kind of true. Look, comedians know that. Why do they use the F word all the time? You can say it's unnecessary, but somehow it drives it home. Sometimes. So he goes on like this. He doesn't use the bad word. Now, what is it? Look, I was in the military, so profanity doesn't really shock me. It doesn't. I don't use it. I think I use it below average, but I do use it. I engage in it. I am shocked when I hear women use it. Shocked on the sidewalk or whatever. I just like, whoa. And I'm also shocked when somebody uses it like in an argument, or they're just saying it casually where other people can hear it. But if you're doing it in a speech, I'm okay with it for some reason. I don't think it's an issue. The other thing is, all right, Franklin Graham was the evangelical. He said, Franklin Graham says he doesn't like it. But Franklin, sometimes you have to. Franklin Graham is great. So is, the late great, Charles Stanley. But there is something about these evangelicals. I've heard from more than one that they can't stand it when Trump uses a bad word. What's the big deal? I don't know. There are a lot of other things to get worked up about. I don't think it's that bad. Again, I don't like women using it. Is that sexist? Perhaps. I don't mind women using it in certain forums, but not in public. You can't do it in public. And it's very, it's kind of crude. I guess, look, using the F word. Hey, how about this for crude? How about this for indecent? Do you remember when Joe, a few months ago, had this great big, maybe was it a year ago? He had a great big gay, queer, jamboree on the White House lawn. Remember? And they had that big trans flag hanging off the White House, and had all these queer people, and trans people and gay people and I don't know if they were having any bisexual people. How do we know who the bisexual people are? I don't know. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, they were all there, and they were very vulgar. I mean, they took off their shirts and they were cavorting and they were holding their breasts and they were jumping up and down. Well, there's a report, and I think we have to be cautious here because it's unconfirmed. However, it's very much in keeping with, what I know about a good chunk of the trans community. They're mentally, they got issues. Sorry, but by definition, they have issues. And somehow, with the left, they think, they're trans, they're amazing, they're beautiful, they're pioneers, they're this, they're that. No, they're pretty much, unfortunately, broken people with a lot of problems that are not going to be solved by rearranging their sex organs. It's just not. A lot of people think it will, but then it doesn't. And whatever problems they had initially, they're even worse now because you've contributed to it with a bunch of physical stuff that doesn't make sense. So one of the people who were there, the biggest, most flamboyant, loudest, most the exhibitionist person was jumping up and down. Now there's a report that this person has been accused of sexually assaulting 5 people. 5. That's a lot of people. And quite frankly, it makes total sense. It really does. I mean, again, we talked about the issues. They have issues. And a lot of these things are coming home to roost. It seemed really cool. It seemed really stylish. But if you give it a moment's thought, you realize, you know what? There's nothing cool about this. There's nothing stylish about it. There's nothing fun about it. There's something, unfortunately, kind of sick about it. Hey, the other thing that's really sick, the swamp. You know who John Bolton is, right? The guy with the mustache. I couldn't believe it. You know, John Bolton is a bitter, nasty guy, right? And he claims to be smart, but he's dumb. He's a very dumb guy. Anybody who was aggressively pushing for the Iraq war, I think they can no longer be in public life. They should not be. They should just leave public life. They have to. I mean, you gave us this war that did nothing for anybody. And John Bolton was one of those guys. So John Bolton at some point is the national security advisor for President Trump. And John Bolton has this great plan in his head. We're going to bomb Iran because Iran took out one of our drones, right? Our drones. And the drone was an expensive drone. It was flying around the Persian Gulf. Iran takes that drone out and destroys it. It was worth a couple of $1 million. So we got to retaliate, right? Okay. I guess I can see that. Let me see the plan. Okay, we're going to retaliate. All right, we're going to hit this facility. Okay, all right. So Bolton makes all these arrangements, and the go is given, or it's about to be given. And then John Bolton finds out, he gets a phone call on his way home from the White House, that the president wanted him, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the Vice President, all the other principals on a conference call, and he wanted to have it in 5 minutes. Okay, president gets what he wants, right? So they're all on the conference call. And the president says, President Trump, I have a report here that we will kill 150 innocent people if we do this. And I think that's wrong, so I'm calling off the mission. And for me, that actually makes total sense. All right? They took out a drone, an unmanned drone. You know how many drones I've lost? Okay, I buy a drone, I fly it around, it gets stuck in a tree, it goes away, I leave it at the park. I have lost a lot of drones. It's just a drone. I am delighted that President Trump chose not to retaliate where it would kill 150 innocent people. John Bolton, when he finds this out, he says that Donald Trump, that was the most irresponsible, irrational decision he has ever seen in his history of public service. And he's been hanging around basically since the Ford administration. That's one of the coolest things I ever heard. I think that's great. And you see how the swamp can't take it. Little dribs and drabs. They can't help but telling the truth. I love reading fake news books. George Stephanopoulos wrote a book about the Situation Room and everything that takes place in the Situation Room, as if it's a really special room. It's not that special. They made it look special lately, but for a long time it was basically just a conference room. Okay, it was just a conference room. Anyway, he's writing about this book and he talks about how poorly run the Trump administration was. And Mattis, the Secretary of Defense, did everything he could to avoid President Trump. He did everything he could to, and he writes about this as if that's a good thing. Like, look at this profile of courage. He's hiding from the President of the United States. You don't hide from the President of the United States, right? You try to serve the President of the United States. They basically rigged the swamp. They tried to get it. They put booby traps all over the place. We're going to get him. We're going to get him, and we're going to intimidate people who want to have a future in government in this swamp after Trump leaves. We're going to make them turn on him and work with us. They actually said that part out loud a couple of times. They said it out loud, and they almost did it. They almost did it. It's one of the reasons why they're so frustrated now. You know, you've got guys like Mark Short. Who knows who Mark Short is? He's Mike Pence's chief of staff, was. The guy went into politics out of college in 1994. He goes and works for Oliver North. Great guy, all right? But then he gets a case of Trump derangement syndrome. Right now, Mark Short makes about $2 million a year. $2 million a year. He left government a couple of years. He left government in 2020. What the hell does that guy get that kind of money for, right? He's in the club now. And he turned on Trump, and he is one of these guys. The insurrection is the worst thing that ever happened. January 6th is the worst thing that ever happened. I looked it up. You know how much he gets for a speech? $25,000. What the hell could Mark Short have to say to you and me that would be worth $25,000? They are in it for themselves and nobody else. And when Trump shows up, it ruins the whole game. Viviana, are you there?
I am here, and I'm in a better place.
All right, what's up?
Thanks for taking the call. Okay, what I wanted to let you know is that there is a documentary, and I'm hoping it goes viral. It is by Mike Lindell and Professor David Clements. It is called Let My People Go, and people can find it on Frank's Speech. It talks about the fraud shows.
Wait.
On Frank's Speech, isn't that the one with Mike Lindell?
I don't know what the hell he does. I mean, I've lost track of Mike. I like him, but I've lost track. What the hell is he up to now?
Okay, this documentary shows.
Why would he invent a website called Frank's Speech? Mm-hmm. What kind of website is that? His name is Mike. Frank's Speech?
No, but I think that's what.
Oh, Frank's Speech, as in like Frank.
Right.
I'm going to be Frank.
Right.
Well, still doesn't. I'm looking at it. I'm trying to find it.
But
Okay.
I saw it, Greg, and I'm telling you, it gives a very clear way of how they intimidated the people there on January 6th. All of the intricacies of them inviting them in.
All right, I will take a look at it. I will take a look at it. Mike Lindell, I'm looking at it here, and it's a big picture of Mike with a pillow. That's what I'm looking at right now on the website. Again, he's a great entrepreneur. Sometimes he goes a little nuts. That's okay. He's on our side, but sometimes he gets a little ahead of himself. I am anxious to look at this. I am. Okay, so where is it? Where is it? Frank's speech. We can go to Frank's speech and check out some of this stuff. I see Trump's speech from the other night. I don't see any documentary, but I'm guessing it's there. All right, Viviana, I will look. Thank you. Yeah, Mike Lindell. I know he kicked the cocaine. He really did, though, right? Did he really kick the cocaine? I'm also looking forward to looking in George Stephanopoulos' book. Are they going to write about the cocaine that was found right outside the Situation Room? Probably not. Yes, Joe.
Hello, Greg. Biden and his buddies are getting very, very nervous. They're with it. He's this, he's that. It's childish, and he still thinks that we're all made with a finger. We're all stupid. He's the one that's imperfect. He's the one that's less than. He's the one that has less morals. He's the one that's actually trying to destroy democracy.
Yeah, I know. Tell me something new. Tell me your little tidbit. You got a tidbit for me? I know this stuff. Give me a tidbit.
A tidbit is, it's getting so bad in the city. In Bay Ridge, I hear that they're asking people to redo their garages as cottages, and there's mobile homes around the Dyker Beach golf course.
You hear. Have you seen any? Yeah. Look, I know. We are a city in crisis. We are a city in absolute crisis. And when the majority leader of the United States Senate, Chuck Schumer, allows his former high school, from which he graduated valedictorian, his parents, Harvey and Ida, never, ever, ever would have allowed Chucky not to have one less day of school for some illegal migrant. And that's what Chuck did for the New York City school students. He let a lot of illegal migrants take over James Madison High School, the once great James Madison High School. Something like 10 U.S. senators went to James Madison, including Chuck. So there's that. And he let them take it over. They're taking over what is ours. I just talked to somebody who got back from France. France is no longer France. France is looking like Morocco. All right. In the culture, in the mores, it's being erased. And don't think it can't happen here. It's happening here. Oh. 5 months to go. Less than. Be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Daddy, coffee.
What? Say it again.
I'm gonna got a cough.
Sue?
Got the nose.
Oh. How are you feeling today?
Yeah. I try to get her to say one more thing, and she does. I love that little language she speaks. It makes no sense.
What are you? What is that costume?
Mermaid.
All right, that's my wife saying. She sounds an awful lot like Pebbles from Flintstones. Remember Pebbles? Although I'm actually able to start decoding that language. All right. I heard murmurs about this last week, and now the Biden administration has actually done it. A Houston doctor indicted on allegations that he illegally obtained pediatric patient records at Texas Children's Hospital. This guy was basically a whistleblower on all the sex change crap that was going on there with kids. And they're trying to make a federal case out of it. A Houston doctor has been indicted for obtaining the records of pediatric patients at Texas Children's Hospital who were not under his care and without authorization, according to U.S. Attorney Alamdar Hamdani. Okay, Alamdar. What's the problem here? The indictment alleges Ethan Haim, 34, illegally accessed patients' names, treatment codes, and attending physicians under false pretenses and with intent to cause malicious harm to TCH. I don't buy that. I think he's doing the right thing. Haim was a resident at Baylor College of Medicine and had previous rotations at the hospital as part of his residency, according to the indictment. In April of 2023, Haim allegedly requested to reactivate his login access. Haim claims he blew the whistle on Texas Children's secret sex change program, and the feds are trying to intimidate him into silence. Good for you, Dr. Haim. Good for you. My God, are they really doing this? They are really doing this. Shortly after Haim allegedly accessed the records, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton announced he was launching an investigation into Texas Children's Hospital to find out whether they are actively engaging in illegal behavior and performing gender transitioning procedures on children. You know, I know all about the HIPAA stuff, all right? And if this guy actually broke the law, and if they're going to try to get him on some technicality, you know, sometimes there's a higher calling, right? The protection of children. I mean, we break the law all the time, quite frankly, to protect children, right? If your child were, say, bleeding had just cut their head and you had to get them to the hospital fast, you might be forgiven for exceeding the speed limit, right? Right, of course. If they are performing perverted surgeries on children, you may want to bring that to the attention of law enforcement. Is this something that the medical community thinks it has, right? You can never hand these records over? I think you got to hand these records over. Wow, we are in one weird spot. Haim, Haim. I like this guy. I like him a lot. Now, TCH, after Ken Paxton got involved, said they're discontinuing their gender transitioning care over the next few months. And that was good. U.S. Representative Dan Crenshaw, he represents the place where the hospital is from. Flat out, this prosecution should not be happening. That's obvious to anyone following Ethan Haim's story. But unfortunately, he is being prosecuted because of Biden's politicized DOJ. Yeah, this is what it means, you know, when they say that nonsense. I have every child's back. We have every child's back. Hey, hold on a second. Patrick, you're in Long Beach. Long Beach, Long Island, or Long Beach, New Jersey? Where are you?
Long Beach, Long Island.
Did you see that great big riot the other day with all those kids cutting class?
Yes, I definitely did. We had a shooting, which was always phenomenal. But, you know, in Nassau County, it's just shocked it's happening here.
It's
scary.
Unbelievable. Really bad. What did you want to say?
Well, I was going to talk about Biden, but talking about what you're talking with the kids, like, when I was growing up, I wanted to be an astronaut. Now, nowadays, if they did what they're doing, they would push me towards doing that. These kids don't know what they want to do. They're trying to learn their ABCs, math. These are the things they need to be learning in school. Not saying, oh, I'm a male and I think I'm a female. And they don't need teachers pushing them towards that ideology.
Of course not. You think you would have signed up for it? One of the dangers is, it's like, I think you can see it as a shortcut to recognition, to status, to prestige, to, oh, look, we're going to celebrate you. Oh, my goodness, the president, he has my back. He has my back. I notice he doesn't have, like, the back. He's not supporting children. He's supporting transgender children. Wow, wouldn't it be nice to be in that little club? I think that's part of it. Patrick, thank you. I wanted to be an astronaut, too. Did you really want to be an astronaut? Yeah, I know. Me, too. I just, I still dream of it. I still dream of going to the moon. But that's not going to happen. Or is it? Or is it? Actually, it's not going to happen. I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go because of my daughters. Before my daughters, I would go. I have a feeling I might be offered a ride one of these days. In the next 20 years, it's going to happen. Next year, we're going back to the moon. Elon Musk, he's obsessed with the moon. I don't have to walk on the moon, just one of those little slingshot things around the moon. Come back Apollo 13 style without the explosion. I'd have to get a lot of insurance. Maybe I will. No, I can't. I can't do that. Can I? All right. It's unnecessary to belabor at this point.
This is Greg Kelly for Priority Gold. What does it mean to be America's precious metals dealer? It means that you're in touch with the hearts and minds of those who love this country, value our freedom, and want to protect the future. Priority Gold is that precious metals dealer. They've helped thousands of Americans back their retirement with solid gold and silver. Call Priority Gold at 888-506-6439. Receive free shipping, free storage, a free investment guide, and one of the best purchase experiences in the industry. Call now or go to PriorityGold.com.